welcome to the Marathon Dads podcast. I hope everybody's doing great out there. Very happy and excited to be with you again today. This is officially the second episode of Marathon Dads podcast. And I just wanted to take a minute to really thank everybody for participating in the first podcast and launch. I want to apologize first and foremost because I had a lot of issues with the audio. I do know why that occurred, unfortunately, but I was able to do the best that I could to fix up that first one. It's not perfect, but these from now on should be spot on and should be great. So, very excited. Thank you all again, and I'm glad there are some folks out there listening. At this point, this is the second podcast, and we've got 10 people who have downloaded it so far. So hopefully those 10 people have actually listened to it. If you did, really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me because I'm getting a little momentum in it, and it feels great. So I basically wanted to do a bit of a recap from the first show or the first episode that I had. And that basically was to promise you a few things at the end. And that promise was that this podcast was going to be real. It was going to be raw. It was going to be authentic. And it was going to be a documentation of everything that I'm doing in my journey. And that's exactly what this is. And so I want to kind of walk you through some very specific things that I'm doing and talk to you a little bit about the formalities of how I'd like to get these scheduled. Yeah, let's kind of dive in there. So from a schedule perspective for this podcast, and as the podcasts start to come out, this will make a lot of sense. But I want to basically try to do 3 podcast episodes per week. And so that basically means I'm going to try to target one to be released on Monday, one to be released on Wednesday, and one to be released on Saturday. And so today is Saturday night, actually. And I'm hoping I could get this one edited and tweaked and uploaded in time for everybody. So that's the schedule, 3 per week if I can. That will be good for me personally, and hopefully that'll be something to give you something to tune into a few times per week. So so let's get started. So wherever you're listening to this at, whether you're at home, you're at work, or you're on your way to work, or you're running, or just relaxing, I hope you take a minute to just sit back and relax and enjoy a few of the things I have to share. So I'm just going to do one other recap piece, and that's basically the main reason that I've created this podcast at all is for kind of a personal growth and a personal journey to get myself back into shape. Now, from the first podcast to now, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been trying to take some baby steps to get there. So the reason for this podcast was really honed down to one thing. Yes, it was health and wellness and fitness, but like I had mentioned, I had these life goals or these bucket list items that were very important to me. And so I participated in a marathon. For those of you who didn't listen to the first episode or haven't had a chance to, I participated in a marathon in 2015. It was actually the Disney Marathon Weekend event in January. So it's always a little cool here in Florida, which is where I'm broadcasting to you from. But that marathon, although I am very pleased that I finished it, I had a tremendous amount of difficulty, and I felt that I somewhat cheated that marathon for me personally, because although I did finish it, I finished it in an over 7-hour time, which is not great at all. I had to pretty much walk the whole last set of miles, basically from mile 10 to mile 26, where it was all walking. And that was walking because I was in a lot of pain. I was in excruciating pain in both of my knees and primarily my right knee, which is where I had that bursiectomy procedure that I told you guys about in the first time. So this is all about a new journey and to try to get back to that marathon, which I'm hoping to do maybe in a year and a half. I don't know. We'll see how this journey takes us. But I do have some information a little bit later on in this podcast that I want to share with you as far as what I've done and some of the things I've signed up. So I actually have a race that I signed up for, which is coming up really soon. So I'm really excited, but also nervous to do that because it's been a little while. So so scheduling 3 podcasts per week is the goal. And before I get into kind of the content or what's kind of changed since the last podcast, I do want to thank a few folks too. I'm doing this kind of confidentially. I haven't really shared it a whole lot with my family other than my wife and my son know that I'm doing this. And I'm kind of doing that intentional because I want to try to just experiment out in the world and try it a little bit raw. So But I have opened a Twitter account for marathondads.com and a Twitter handle, and I've also opened a Facebook account, and I have a website, but I haven't done much with that yet. But that's where I'm going to be trying to track some of my statistics. But from a Twitter perspective, I wanted to thank a few folks, because there are some folks on Twitter that are following me, and some of them are actually providing me some really good motivation and feedback, and I think it's only warranted to thank them. And so two very special thanks. One is to a group that has been actually writing me back and kind of fulfilling some positive momentum for me, which is a company called Track Shack. This is not a sponsored event for them by any purpose. They're a great company. They've been around for a long time. They're a local running store here, and they do a lot of the sponsorships of some of the local races. So some of the Track Shack folks have actually written back and given me some boosting and some motivation, and especially kind of said, hey, why don't you check out this podcast, which is really cool. So thank you to the folks at Track Shack. Really appreciate that. Another one, I don't even know who this is or what the company is about, so I need to look into it. It's called Get to the Start. And they kind of also said, hey, why don't you check out this podcast, which was kind of cool. So thank you for the folks from Get to the Start. I'll have to look into a little bit more of what you guys are about. And then finally, there's been tons and tons of people who've liked my comments on Twitter and my motivational pieces I've put out there, because they help me motivate as well. There's three special people that are out there that I wanted to just give kind of a little thank you to, because they've been pretty consistent in their commenting back or liking. I don't know who these folks are as well, but thank you. One of them is Ronnie Willis. Another one just says Brett. I don't know how. I need to look into that as well. And then another one is Jim Godey, or Godey, I think is how you pronounce it. So if I didn't pronounce those right, I apologize. But thank you all three for your help. I really appreciate that. Just giving me some likes or some comments have always boosted me. So really appreciate that. So thank you. Okay, so into the meat of the podcast. What has changed since the last time we talked? Well, I've done a few things. It's been about 5 to 6 days or so since I did that first episode. And one of the things that we did is we kind of introduced a new tradition in our family. We're going to try to make it a tradition. Every Sunday morning in the area in which I live, there's a local farmers market that starts up. And I went to one a week ago, and I went to one this past Sunday as well. And I took my son there the first time, and it was just dad and son, kind of a little event, something positive that I wanted to share with him. And we had a great time. It was so cool. We got some really cool natural things, like some natural herbs and spices, and we got a bunch of fruits and vegetables and just stuff to, experiment. And with him being young, he gets to see new things and experience new things, like different fruits and vegetables. And he's like, Dad, what's this? And Dad, what's that? And some things I don't even know what they are. But we have some folks there that have been super nice and super helpful. And so it had such a great time. I decided to take my wife the next weekend. And we all went as a family, and it was great. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun, and we're planning to go there maybe again this Sunday. So maybe not every Sunday, but at least a few times per month, because the quality of the stuff we got there was great. Got one of the booths had some spices that we put on some of our dinner food, and it was great. So that was something that was new. The other thing, and probably the most important, that race that I talked to you about, is I'm signing up for a 5K. That 5K is on the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I'm going to check that real quick. So I think it is Saturday, August the 18th is a 5K, local 5K here, and I'm going to be running in that, which is going to be super exciting. It's a medal race, so hopefully I can finish and get a medal, which will be cool, because getting free t-shirts and medals is always awesome. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I've been training for that. I've actually been running 2 days in a row now, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I ran a mile yesterday and ran a mile today. And with work and events, I've been trying to keep it on and off every day or so. But I was able to run 2 miles, 1 mile yesterday, 1 mile today. And I've been keeping that trend up consistently, maybe skipping a day, but I'm definitely planning on running again tomorrow. And I felt a lot of momentum today. So either I just had a lot of energy or whatever the case was, but today was momentum. I had a lot of knee pain, but I was able to run a lot better. And so I wanted to share that with you because I thought that was pretty cool. And what I wanted to bring up here was actually my results from Garmin Connect. So I have a Garmin watch, which is pretty cool. And it said today that from a mile perspective, I recorded my best mile ever, which was totally cool. That was 10 minutes and 17 seconds. I don't remember what my last time was, but I think it was high 10s or maybe 11s. And so I don't have a whole lot of data on the Garmin. So as I go on, maybe I won't be breaking as many records, but at least I did break it for sure before that, because I've recorded multiple miles. I think I've recorded about 28 miles or so on this watch. So yeah, super excited about that. That was pretty cool. So yeah, next items that I wanted to share is that I've done a lot of lifestyle change pieces as well. I've been doing a lot of research online and looking at a lot of different things. And basically one thing that I found was this book or this article about, well, the book is called The Miracle Morning. A lot of you have probably heard of that before. And if you haven't, you should check it out. It's really interesting. I haven't read the whole book. I've just been reading some highlights and different pieces to kind of get started quickly. And it just talks about shifting your mindset and really focusing on morning events and not staying up too late and things of that nature. And it kind of takes you through best practices and kind of a routine. And some of the things I've been able to take from that is I am classically a nighttime person. I'm a night owl for sure. I'm not a morning person at all. Everybody that knows me knows that. Everybody at work knows that. I need to get coffee in the morning before I can feel like I can function. But yeah, so the Miracle Morning is what I've been looking into, and what I've done essentially is, first thing when I get up, I have been trying to drink water, to break that fast, get some of the metabolism starting. Even though it's water, it's something, it's important, and that's been researched to be very important. So I'm trying that to see if that helps me out at all. Trying to go to bed earlier, which has been a struggle. I normally go to bed at like 11:30 or midnight. Last night I tried to go to bed at 11. That seemed to have helped somewhat, give me a little bit more energy. But the other thing that I've been researching in addition to this Miracle Morning piece was really how I eat. Now I'm probably in the shape that I'm in with lack of exercise, but mostly because of what I eat. And I pretty much eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And like I was mentioning before in the first episode, I don't eat breakfast, and I very rarely will eat something of quality for lunch. And so some of the research I've done was kind of a simple saying that one of the gentlemen shared with me at one of the local vitamin stores. And he had said, really, you're doing everything in the wrong manner as far as how you're eating. You're not eating breakfast. You're eating a bad lunch, and then you're just eating everything after the dinner time period, which is just the opposite of what you want to do. He says you want to switch that. And he said, have you ever heard of the saying of the king, the prince, and the pauper? I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he said, well, here's how it works. He kind of opened up his arms high and over his head and said, you want to eat like a king for breakfast. So he kind of showed a big meal, and then said, eat like a prince for lunch, kind of making it smaller, and then eat like a pauper for dinner. And so it makes total sense. It's probably what we all have known, but basically eating larger amounts in the morning, smaller amounts, and as you go on, and try not to eat too late as well. So that was a really good lesson that I'm happy I was able to hear, and I'm trying to put that into perspective and trying to put it into practice, more importantly. So the one thing that's been super hard for me with this whole eating differently, and I don't have it down pat by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a classic late night eater and late night snacker. Since I was a kid, I remember when I grew up with my mom and my cousins and my aunt and uncle, we all kind of shared the same house when I was younger. And every night before we went to bed, watch a little TV. Hey, AJ, what do you want for your snack? And I'm a super salty chip person, so I don't like sweets, don't like cake, don't like brownies, don't like cookies. Everybody's probably like, oh my gosh, this guy's weird, don't want to listen to him. But all joking aside, yeah, totally a salt person. Chips every night. My mom would ask me, what do you want for a snack? It'd always be chips, Doritos, something of that nature. And it really has stuck with me forever, from high school to college to now. I will just take a bag of chips down out of commission very quickly. So that's been really hard for me. So one thing that I started to do and say, hey, if I'm going to eat something at night, why don't I eat something healthy, or at least try to? So I've been trying to eat something like a piece of fruit at the end of the night. Last night, I actually had tuna. I've been trying to eat tuna a lot because I know it's got a lot of protein. And for me, I don't mind eating it late at night. But I know some folks might be like, that's not good at night. So anyway, that's something that I've been trying to do. And also trying to go to bed a little bit earlier, but that's still been a struggle. It's kind of been a work in progress. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to share with you guys that I've been kind of doing since the last podcast. The biggest piece is going to be that eating, and then obviously the training to try to get my endurance up. And so I don't know what I'm going to get on that 5K, but I'm hoping that I can, of course, finish it without any major knee pain. And then I'm also hoping that I can try to maybe get it, I don't know. I'm thinking, because I'm just starting out, maybe under 30 minutes. The last time I ran a 5K was, UCF, which is the University of Central Florida, Lake Nona, years ago. I think I got it in like 30 or 31 minutes. Wasn't very good, to be honest. So anywho, I hope that I'm going to be able to make a positive change there. And so we'll surely see. So one other thing I want to talk about in today's episode is going to kind of be a little bit shorter than the first one. But one of the other ideas I was thinking about, and I'd be interested if you guys think this is a good idea as well, is basically taking the content here on the podcast that I either know or I learn or I explore and kind of writing that online in kind of like a blog format on the marathondads.com website, just to see, because that'll kind of be an ongoing way for me to kind of document or journal the different things that are working well and the different things that are not working well. And hopefully that's something that you all might like as well and get something out of. So interested to see what your thoughts are on that. And in a way, what I'm thinking also that we can kind of do this would be, I'm thinking of having kind of an advice and guidance section or an ask questions section. And here's what I'm thinking. So for those of you who either see this podcast or you have ability to comment on it, or you see it, because I am actually posting it also through YouTube, even though there's no physical video, it's just the audio of it. I would love for you guys to be able to check that out on YouTube. And YouTube is really cool because you can actually make comments below, and those comments can be things that we can kind of interact with here. So I'd love if you guys have any ideas, advice, and guidance, or reference points that you say, hey, why don't you go take a look at this website, or have you tried this? That would be awesome, because then we could kind of have that interactive community piece that I was talking about from before. And then more importantly, maybe the reverse of that. Maybe you just want to ask me a question for some reason. I don't know why you would, but maybe not in the sense of getting official guidance, but just maybe you're doing something similar to this and you're going through some struggles just like I am, and maybe we can learn something from each other. So it'd be a really great content booster for us to talk about those type of questions if you guys have them, and you can send them over. So I would say if you are listening to this and you want to interact with the podcast at any point, going through YouTube would really be great, because then I could check and see the comments and I could actually reverberate the questions on this forum here. So that would be awesome, and I think that would be really cool. So hopefully you like that, and maybe by the next episode we've got some folks that have actually heard this and and actually made a note or a comment, and we can ask those questions. So yeah, that is just one last thing I wanted to share. And unfortunately, sorry, there was one other piece at the beginning where I had commented on some special folks that had interacted with me on Twitter. One additional person that I wanted to comment, because he was actually very helpful and kind of went back and forth with me as well, was a gentleman that's actually running, it says here, hi all, sending this to everybody online. I'm planning to take part in my first Ironman next year. Any and all advice is much welcome. So I commented back on that, and I was like, if anyone can run an Ironman, that would be really cool. One of the things I'd love to get to in the future. So I was like, hey, this guy's probably going through his own personal journey. And I made a little note back to him, and he wrote back to me too, just with a little, positive vibes and some coaching back and forth. And so his name is Simon Hannaford, and he's on Twitter as well. So if you're interested, you should go take a look at that. Sounds like he's training for an Ironman, so all the best of luck to him. Looks like he actually lives in England. So Simon, if you're listening to this, good luck, man, and I hope that you're doing well, and hoping you're training well, and maybe you can share some of your tips, or we could share some tips with you too. So either way, good luck to him for sure, and thanks for interacting back and forth with me. So yeah, that is really it for today. Just kind of a little recap and update. Again, want to thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for interacting. Again, this is just kind of a personal journey of mine, so I appreciate you guys coming along and listening. Really means a lot that somebody out there is hearing it. I hope this is reverberating with you and it's hitting home. If there's something different that you want to hear or see, please let me know, because that can only help me and it can help us all. So thank you for everything. And yeah, so I'm going to sign off, and I want to thank you all for coming with me on this journey. And I hope you have a wonderful week, a great weekend, and good luck to all of you and all that you're doing. Thank you so much. This is the Marathon Dads Podcast.